The honourable member for Pickering-Scarborough East.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in the House tonight on behalf of my constituents of Pickering-Scarborough East to build C-60, the Jobs, Growth, Long-Term Prosperity Act. As a professional engineer, I highly support the bill as it truly provides a concrete foundation addressing real Canadian issues which would build Canada's future economic strength for many years to come in order to maintain our country as one of the best places in the world to live, raise a family, work and start a business. My expertise in the engineering profession and service in the Army Engineers has allowed me to explore this bill from various aspects. Bill C-60 focuses on the well-being of Canadians, and as a member, I can assure you that it includes a variety of measures to implement certain provisions contained in Canada's Economic Action Plan 2013. My constituents in Pickering-Scarborough East are supportive of Bill C-60 as it addresses some of the key issues that they have been facing. As we all know, the youth had been financially neglected in our system for a long time by previous governments. Canadian youth are struggling to find jobs within their area of study. Our Conservative government has a plan for the young Canadians seeking employment in the job market. Our Conservative government understands the needs of today's youth population and has proposed to provide $18 million funding in a multi-year support for the Canadian Youth Business Foundation to enable the foundation to continue supporting young entrepreneurs between the ages of 18 and 34. This will not only be an opportunity for the youth to grow within their career-oriented horizons, but will also help boost our Canadian economy, leading young Canadians toward innovation. Just to give an example, the Canadian Youth Business Foundation has worked with 5,600 new entrepreneurs, helping to create 22,100 new jobs across Canada. This plan, Mr. Speaker, is working and will work for the Canadian youth. They are leaders of tomorrow. The NDP indeed have some ideas, but is not delivering accordingly to the needs of our Canadian youth. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, Canada's temporary foreign worker program needs reform in order to ensure clearly and without doubt that Canadians are given first chance to available jobs, and this is an issue that my constituents in the riding of Pickering-Scarborough East are concerned, and Bill C-60 is addressing it. This program provides employers with access to foreign workers on a temporary basis to assist sectors and areas that experience labor shortages. Reforms should be used to ensure that this program is used in the way it was intended and not otherwise. In connection with this, also, the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act needs to be amended. It needs to provide authority to revoke work permits issued by Citizenship and Immigration Canada and to suspend and revoke labour market opinions which are provided by Human Resources and Skills Development Canada if an employer is found to be misusing the program. In addition, under Economic Action Plan 2013, the Government of Canada announced that it would introduce user fees for employers applying to hire temporary foreign workers through the labour market opinions process. The Government will use existing regulatory authority and will establish authority for privilege fees in respect of work permits. This will ensure that taxpayers no longer subsidize the cost of processing these applications. Mr. Speaker, many constituents from my riding are supporting these amendments designed to avoid abuses of a well-intended legislation. Mr. Speaker, there are many newcomers who reside in my riding of Pickering-Scarborough East. For these newcomers, becoming a Canadian citizen is a significant milestone, creating stronger bonds to the economic, cultural and social fabric of Canada. I am pleased to see the Economic Action Plan 2013 is aiding to help ensure a flexible and robust citizenship program. I myself have volunteered and lectured many citizenship classes in and in surrounding ridings, and I am aware of the waiting times and the program's increasing costs. The citizenship application fee has not been adjusted for almost 20 years. The current $200 fee only covers 20% of the actual cost to process a citizenship application, which means that our Canadian taxpayers are subsidizing 80% of actual processing cost. The Citizenship Act will be amended to provide expanded authority for the Governing Council to make regulation respecting fees for services provided in the administration of the Citizenship Act and for the waiver of such fees. The enactments also provide that the User Fees Act does not apply to fees for services delivered in the administration of the Citizenship Act. This would indeed serve both the newcomers and taxpayers and fix mistakes made by past governments. Mr. Speaker, Canadians want clean, reliable and safe energy. That is why our Conservative government has proposed to Bill C-60 amendments to the Nuclear Safety and Control Act. In my riding, Pickering-Scarborough East, we rely on the Pickering Nuclear Generating Station for safe and clean power. The aforementioned reforms allow the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission to continue to protect the health, safety and security of Canadians and reassures Canada's international commitment to peaceful use of nuclear technology for power production. The problem right now is that with the current fee charging structure, it collects payments for license holders to support its regulatory activities, which may take place in a subsequent fiscal year. If this is the case, the dues received but not used can result in a lapse at the end of the fiscal year. The legislative amendment provides the Commission with the authority to carry forward unspent revenues collected from license fees from one fiscal year to the next. As an engineer, it is easy for me to see that this reform allows all my constituents to be assured that their health, safety and security are protected at all times and there are no financial difficulties to the Commission in order to do its job to its full ability. Mr. Speaker, Canadians want concrete action and ideas, not empty statements and promises, on how to keep the economy on track and create jobs and prosperity for their families. That is why our Conservative government introduced the Economic Action Plan 2013 to amend parts of the Keeping the Economy and Jobs Growing Act of 2011. The amendments allow for a series of increases starting in 2014-15 to the sum that may be paid under this statute for the purposes of the gas tax fund. Currently, that sum sits at $2 billion per year. It is proposed that the amount be raised by $100 million when an underlying calculation, the initial sum of $2 billion increased annually by 2%, reaches the next $100 million threshold. Canada's gas tax fund provides predictable, long-term funding for Canadian municipalities to help them build and revitalize public infrastructure that achieve positive environmental results. More specifically, the fund supports municipal infrastructure projects that contribute to cleaner air, water, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions and fall into the following categories: drinking water, wastewater infrastructure, public transit, community energy system, solid waste management, and local roads. Mr. Speaker, our Conservative government has put forth logical reforms with Bill C-60 and will make Canada continue to be the beacon of enlightenment, freedom, and prosperity the world over. I rise today to ask all members of this House to join me in voting in favour of this measure so that Canadians can continue to prosper. The measures I have highlighted today are significant examples of this government's commitment to a strong economy and responsible management in the name of all Canadians. The commitment represents our longer-term view on how we can become more efficient and more prudent with taxpayers' hard-earned money. The steps we take today will indeed give us the tools and strength to withstand challenges which we may face in the near future. This is why I say that our Conservative government's focus has been planning accordingly to what the Canadians are asking us to do and implementing Canada's Economic Action Plan 2013 through Bill C-60 will achieve exactly that. To me, Mr. Speaker, it is obvious that Canadians from St. John's to Yellowknife and to Vancouver Island, including those of Pickering-Scarborough East, will benefit from the policies this bill lays out. This is a reminder of what we are here to do first and foremost, and that is to represent our constituents. And so, Mr. Speaker, let's pass this bill for prosperity. Let's pass this bill not because it helps us sitting in this chamber today, but let's pass it because Canadians need this. Canada needs this bill. Thank you.
Question et commentaire. L'honorable député de Joliette.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je remercie mon collègue pour son discours. Bon, tantôt, on disait que nous allions voter contre ce projet de loi C-60. Oui, nous allons voter contre parce que ce sont des projets de loi omnibus, tout comme on s'est opposé au projet de loi omnibus de Paul Martin dans les années 90. Maintenant, j'ai une question. Je voudrais savoir quand les conservateurs vont cesser de réduire aveuglément les budgets des agences de développement économique dans les régions du Canada. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The honourable member for Pickering-Scarborough East.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much for the question asked. It is a very good question for my colleague opposite. However, I would like to concentrate on the New Building Canada plan. It is a huge plan which is meant to rebuild our infrastructure. So over 53 billions are invested in this plan over 10 years. So 32.2 billion over 10 years for a community improvement fund, 14 billion for New Building Canada fund, 1.25 billion for the renewal of the P3 Canada fund, 6 billion under current infrastructure programs for provinces, territories, and municipalities. So these are the ideas that we have. We are delivering for Canadians, and these are the plans, and these are our plans, and I think that this is expected from us, from Canadians.
Questions and comments? Question et commentaire. The honourable member for Winnipeg North.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, the last time I asked the Conservative member a question, he chose not to answer the question and then distorted the question itself, making reference to Liberal Party not wanting Canadians to be employed. Well, Mr. Speaker, that reminded me in terms of what this government has actually done in regards to this particular issue. And that's what my question is actually on. The Temporary Foreign Worker Program. 338,000 temporary foreign workers through this government. Record high numbers. At the same time, we have huge unemployment problems in all of the different regions of Canada. In particular, emphasis on youth, Mr. Speaker. A lot of young Canadians looking for jobs, yet this government has 338,000, or seen the need for 338,000 temporary foreign workers. My question specific to the member is, does he believe that Canada requires 338,000 foreign temporary workers, or did the government make poor decisions in regards to issuing out temporary foreign worker permits, or they messed up on immigration? Which one is it?
The honourable member for Pickering-Scarborough East.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much to the question that was addressed by me by the member opposite. As you have seen, Mr. Speaker, from my presentation, the temporary workers permit needs an improvement, and we are doing just that in our bill C-60. So I cannot tell we need certain number or less number or more number. What we know, it is that the temporary worker permit legislation must be fixed to be used as it is meant to be used.
Questions and comments? Question et commentaire. The honourable member for Dartmouth Coal Harbour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was interested in listening to the member opposite's intervention. Clearly, he's a believer. He supports his government's budget. He supports this bill. He believes everything that's being said about it. But I would ask him to consider the fact that this Budget Implementation Act changes upwards of 50 different pieces of legislation. It's been suggested by economists, by Conservative commentators, by the Parliamentary Budget Officer, that parliamentarians are not given near the information that they need in order to make the important decisions oversight because of the implications of the measures that will be passed in this bill. I'd like to ask the member, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the fact that he's a believer, but is there not room in this House, the People's Chamber, for all members to have the opportunity to properly scrutinize such an important piece of legislation as this?
The honourable member for Pickering-Scarborough East. A short answer, please. We're out of time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the question. Thank you, my colleague from the opposite. This is a good question indeed, but I am telling you what is the most important thing. We have a budget. We have to amend this budget. We cannot wait time and time again to implement. Canadians expect an action from us. And I just remind the member that we have the gas tax fund for the infrastructure, which is indexed now, and some of other provinces are following our example, like the province of Ontario.